First, I just want to thank you guys for all your prayers and just your support as I took this 5-month journey. I'm so thankful for just your constant prayers, and without you guys, it wouldn't have been possible, so thank you so much. So I'm just going to start out and share my testimony, and I just pray that you guys just have open hearts to hear and listen and relate. I'm just going to go into it. I grew up in a Christian home, and you guys know my parents. They're very loving parents. We moved around a lot as a young child, and I started to feel very unstable, out of control. I was a perfectionist, people pleaser, and I thought that my worth was in my grades and my looks, and I was struggling with those things as a young child. We moved to Thailand when I was in 6th grade and continued to just feel very unstable, very unsettled, felt very out of control. And I thought that Jesus didn't want anything to do with me. I had accepted him into my heart when I was a young child, but because of my parents, I looked at them and I saw their faith as being so great and awesome, and they could move to Thailand and just sell everything they had, and then I was like, my faith was weak, and I was just struggling, and I was searching for things to try to control, and I just thought that Jesus didn't want anything to do with me because my faith wasn't like my parents and it wasn't strong. My identity, kind of the theme of my story is just my identity being so lost. And so I started to see my identity in my looks, in the things that I could do, play music, dance. And I felt like a failure each time that I would perform in front of people, though, because I set an unrealistic standard for myself and put pressure on myself to be perfect. Around 9th grade, my brother and my friends and a dance teacher that I had were very verbally harsh to me about my weight, and would jokingly call me big boned and fat, and I latched onto those lies. And I started to believe this lie in my head that I was fat and that I was unworthy and that I wasn't good enough. And I think that everybody can relate, that the world, media, people, they say things to you and you can take those and distort them, or if they're saying something that's super mean, I mean, you latch onto those lies and they become bigger than the truth a lot of the time. And the more that you think about them and feed them, it just grows to giant proportions. And so those lies were just taking over my head. I went to America for a summer when I was 16, and people told me before I went there, they were like, you're going to get fat when you go there, so be careful. And I was like, oh, well, that's not something, I'm 16, thanks. So I went to America, and I made a pact with myself, and I was like, I'm going to show them. I'm going to come back, and I'm not going to have gained any weight, and I'm going to show them that I am in control of this. And slowly I began to engage in eating disorder behaviors, and isolated myself and just did things that fed the lies in my head, and then they became actions that it was a part of my life now. And I lost about 50 pounds in 3 months, and I felt that I was good at something, though. I came back to Thailand after this trip, and people complimented my image and said, wow, you've lost so much weight, this is awesome. And I thought that this was awesome, and I thought, oh wow, this is something I'm good at. I can control this area of my life and be good at it. And all these other things, finances, all this will be crazy, but I can do this. My mom knew that something was up, her motherly wisdom, and she was like, we gotta do something to help Molly. So they took me, my mom and I went to America, and I went to a program, and I was diagnosed with bulimia and anorexia, and my body healed during that time period, but my identity now was kind of being wrapped around being this problem and this issue. And my dad and my sisters came and joined us in America, and I felt like I was just this big problem because they had to leave all their friends in Thailand to come see me get better, and it was just very hard on my mind. And so I almost just lived in being a problem, though. I just was like, well, this is who I am. There's nothing I can do about it. I'm just going to fester it and sit here and in my problemness. Self-harm became a way for me to hurt myself because I felt so worthless. And I began to do that because it was a way for me to feel pain for the problem that I thought I was. And so that became an outlet for me. And just these actions continued feeding the lies in my head that I was worthless. And there came a time where I took a bunch of my anxiety pills and dumped them in my hand, and I just wanted to die. And my dad found me in the kitchen, and the only thing I remember is waking up in the hospital, and my parents knew again that something had to change, something had to happen, Molly needs more help. And so I went to the next treatment center, and again, same kind of thing. They healed my body, got my body up to a healthy weight, because I was, again, at a really low weight and wasn't doing well physically. And so my body's healed, but again, my mind is just in torment. They didn't do anything to help what was going on in my head. And so I got done with that treatment program and came home, and I just tried to live life normally. I was like, I just have to, maybe I'll get a job. So I got a job, and I got a job at Ingles grocery store, and I was like, I can do this, because I was isolating myself before, depressed, didn't want to do anything to do with anybody. So I thought that maybe if I did this, I could meet some friends, start feeling a little better about myself. I started to meet my party friends at this job, and I wanted to do anything that I could to be accepted and approved of. So I began to drink and smoke marijuana on a daily basis and lie to my parents and manipulate my way around things, and just another way for me to control a situation. And I was justifying my behavior because I said to myself, well, this helps me. I can eat when I smoke, and I feel fine. It numbs my feelings, and so I don't have to feel anything, so this is fine. It's really okay. Well, my parents didn't think so, and they were like, well, you have 2 younger sisters in the house. You're going to have to leave if you're going to continue in these behaviors. And so I said, all right, well, I'm out of here. So I left the house and began smoking and drinking daily. I began to sell weed, and that was just another way for me to control. And another thing that my identity just latched onto. I was known as a drug dealer and a partier, and I gave my heart to a boy and gave my body to him, and just became very entangled in this relationship. Things got really bad when I slept with my drug dealer, and he left me, and this boy, and I continued to sleep around, and drugs got worse. I started getting into heavier things like cocaine and ecstasy and painkillers, and I was just very lost, and I was very hopeless. I felt very hopeless. I remember waking up sometimes and thinking, like, what am I doing? What am I doing? But I couldn't see a way out. And there was almost like a pleasure in that pain, and I didn't want to change. I was just a slave to fear. And it was funny because I remember looking back, there would be times where I'd be sitting around with my friends in my house in a party, and I'd be playing worship songs. I would argue with my atheist friends about, Jesus is so real. So I knew he's in me, and he was inside of me, and I believed in him. But again, I thought he was so far away. So there came another rock bottom. I hit just a point where I severed a bunch of relationships with my friends, and I called my mom, and I was like, I gotta come home. And she was like, yeah, you do. And so she let me come home, and I applied to Mercy Ministries. And Mercy is a place that restores hope and transforms lives by the truth of Jesus Christ. And I went there for 6 months and began to find freedom from the eating disorder, from addictions, from cutting, and it was really difficult. But I needed that. I needed that set aside time of 6 months to be sober and to continually have truth washed over those lies so that I wasn't feeding those lies anymore, but I was speaking truth over them. And I had to do so many things of speaking out the truth every day. And it really changed my life. I learned so many things about how my past didn't dictate my future, and that I was a new creation, and it's a choice. And I let go of a lot there. I came home, and I was on fire for Jesus. I was like, woo, Jesus! Like, ready to just start revivals everywhere. And I thought that I could do it. I was like, I've got this. I'm going to go hang out with my party friends and witness, and it's going to be wonderful. Everyone's going to come to know the Lord. But there were things that I didn't let go of at Mercy. One of them being this boy that had a really huge latch on my soul, and just a soul tie. And I didn't let go of him. And so when I came back, in the back of my head, I really just wanted to see this guy. And when I opened that door to let Satan in, it opened wide, and things just started to come back in. And it was hard having this pressure of coming back from this place, and I had to prove to people that I was better and that I was changed. And really I didn't have to do that, but that's what I was thinking. And I just came at it thinking that I had this and that I could muster up the strength to just do everything on my own, and I was going to be fine. So I just began a bad pattern of getting into the things that held me in bondage before, and I began lying to my parents. And again, those things that I didn't let go of, I had to let go of them, and I didn't. And so it was keeping me in bondage. I began smoking weed daily again and drinking, and it was just a bad situation. There was another rock bottom that I hit when I was in a fight with my boyfriend, and he was very physically and verbally abusive, and I called the cops one night to come and help me, and they showed up, and he backed away, and I was freaking out and out of control. And so they arrested me and took me to jail. And I remember sitting in the cell, and first I was like drunk, and then I started singing worship songs. It was just a weird experience. But there was one point where I was like, Jesus, why am I here? What am I doing? Like, I went to Mercy. I learned all these things. I know the truth. Why am I here? And where were you? Where are you? And I just clearly remember him giving me a slideshow in my head of all these flashbacks of my past, of when I was a perfectionist as a young child, when I was sitting in the corner self-harming, when I was in the bathroom making myself vomit, when I was at parties, when I was in jail, and Jesus was beside me in every single slide, and he was there, and he was right there. And so that just completely shook me up, and I was like, oh my gosh, you didn't leave me. You were there that whole time, just calling out to me, saying, Molly, I'm here, I'm here, I'm here. And so my parents came and got me from jail the next day, and they didn't give me any charges. They found drugs in my car. They knew I blatantly told them I was drinking and driving. They didn't give me anything. And I knew at that point that I had to do something. I had to change. I had to get help again, and that was okay. And this time I was excited about doing something about it. So I came home, and my mom was like, YWAM, college, or you're moving out. And I was like, okay, I don't want to do any of those. But I chose to do YWAM, Youth with a Mission, and I went, and it was hard because I learned all these things at Mercy. They teach some of the similar things about, truth over these lies and letting go of these things, surrendering control, surrendering your life to Jesus. And I was just struggling in the beginning. I was like, I've done this before, and I failed. What happened? And I just love this part of my story, though, because it just shows God's grace and that he never gives up on us, ever. So when I was there, things just began to shift in my mind, and my desires began to change, and I got to see other kids like me grow and transform, and they watched me transform, and we were just encouraging each other all the time, and the community was just beautiful. And there was one time where my small group leader came up to me in a worship session, and I was in the corner having a pity party crying, and she was like, Molly, I know your emotions are telling you to do everything but what I'm telling you to do, but stand up, raise your hands, and just praise Jesus, even if you don't feel like it. And I did, and I got up, and I did it, and then it just clicked in me, and I remembered everything from Mercy, and I was just like, this is a choice. I have to choose it daily. And I had so many revelations at YWAM of, I can tell you, I've been in the past party life, and then I've been in this so much real eternal joy, and I can tell you that this one is so much better. And I've had experience, so I know. So that was one thing that was so exciting, is one day I was with my friends, and we were during worship, and I was just like, this is so much more fun than any party I've ever been at, and I never want to go back. So yeah, being chiseled is an everyday process, and healing and restoration and transformation, they're things that we choose to walk in every single day. Outreach was incredible for me. You guys saw a little picture of me washing that lady's feet, and The beginning of Outreach was hard because I didn't want to be an evangelist, and I was like, what is this? And but one day, we were praying for people in the church, and this lady, her feet, she had arthritis in her feet and couldn't move them. And I got the word in my head to wash her feet, but I didn't speak up because I was like, man, I'm just thinking to wash her feet. But then 2 other people were like, I really feel that we need to wash this lady's feet. And I was like, oh. I was like, I hear from Jesus. Like, he's speaking to me because this is confirmation. And I was like, me, I'm on it. I'm washing the feet. And so we got a bucket, and I washed her feet, and they were healed. And she lifted her feet and said that they felt better and that she didn't have pain in them anymore and she could move them around. And that just broke me down. And I was like, this is what I want to do the rest of my life. Like, Jesus, I want you to just be in me and move through me every day for the rest of my life, because I want to see this. I want to see people healed. I want to see brokenness redeemed, because I've been there and I've been changed by the grace and the love and the freedom that Christ died for us to have. And yeah, it was just an amazing experience, because that small act of obedience, and sometimes that's what the Lord is looking for. He just wants us to step out and just take the leap of faith and just obey. And he's so pleased when we do that. And it doesn't have to be some big thing. And so it's just been, it's been a process for me. And it's not like, I woke up one day and I was just changed. It's been a long journey for me of continually speaking truth over those lies and continually knowing that forgiveness is a choice, and that I have to look in the mirror sometimes and say, I forgive you, Molly. Like, you are not a bad person. You have done bad things, but you are not a bad person. And that Jesus has been there with me the entire time. And he's with you guys all the time, every day, all the time, right there. And we act like he's so far away, but he's right there. It's so much easier than we make it out to be sometimes. And I've just so much learned how perfect love, it casts out fear. And I just have no fear. I have no fear of man anymore. And that is just Jesus' work in me. Because I don't care what people think, because it doesn't matter what people think. It just matters what God thinks. And he sees us as his children. And it's beautiful. And after this time that I'm here, I'm going to be traveling a little bit. And I plan, hopefully, to go to the School of Worship in Colorado, and that just will focus more on worship, and worship as a lifestyle and songwriting, and we'll break up into bands, and I'm very, very excited to do that, because I am just, I have vision. And I think what's cool about the difference between my time from Mercy coming back and from now coming back is I know I can't do it. And I come here and I know that I can't do it in my own strength. And that I wake up every day and I say, Jesus, I can't, but you can. You can do this, and you can work in me and through me, and I surrender everything to you, and I let go of everything. And that has just changed me completely. And I'm not done, and I won't ever be done, and it's a journey. It's a lifelong journey that I'm on, and we're all on that journey, and every day you learn something, you grow every day, and I think that that's so cool too. And I just want to open this time right now. If you guys would like to, come forward, and I'm going to sing a song and pray over you guys. And if you can relate in any sense, aspect of my story, if you have any strongholds in your heart of just things holding you down, of bitterness, resentment, unforgiveness, pride, lust, addictions, insecurities, and you just want to surrender them to God today, I believe that we should do that. And I also just want to say, if you want to stand in the gap, if you have a child that is in some of the stuff that I've talked about, there's so much hope, because I'm a testimony of that hope. And I just want you guys to feel free to come forward and stand in the gap for them, and just to call out to Jesus and ask him to break those chains in their lives and break those chains in your lives, because he will. And like I said, sometimes it's a process. Like for me, it was a process. But I do believe that when you pray and you ask, he breaks those chains. And so I'm just going to sing this song, and you guys feel free to come forward.